Hello everybody, this is a video response to subcategory. Can God become a man? This video was sent to me in an email, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and respond to it. Your video is very interesting. It's actually fascinating. The whole subject's fascinating. You're clearly a very smart guy. I think, though, that you're incorrect when you say that God and man are complete opposites. And I do understand your point of view, and I do understand where one would get that point of view. However, when you look at the data, I would say that's actually incorrect. And in order to demonstrate this, I'm going to have to clarify some distinctions. The first distinction I would want to make is between that of nature and person or personhood. Your nature is something that which you are. Your person is your consciousness, your will. So you're a person with a human nature. So that's the relationship between your personhood and your nature. You're a consciousness that happens to have a human nature. To clarify, there are angelic persons. In your view, being a Muslim, there is a divine person, angelic persons, and human persons. So one can be a person without an angelic nature. So therefore the nature is related to the person, but the person need not have that nature, that particular nature. So there is a difference between personhood and nature. Okay, so the second distinction I want to make is the distinction between what is essentially human and what is commonly human. By commonly human, I would say that commonly human beings have arms, we have legs, we have eyes. Now, what is it essentially to be a human? Well, I would say that it is not essential to your humanity that you die. Human beings commonly die, but it is not essential that you die in order to be a human being. You don't have to die in order for you to hold the status or hold the nature of a human. You also don't have to sin in order to be a human being. Adam and Eve, for example, didn't sin and they were human. It is not a requirement or an essentiality that you sin in order to be human. So there's a difference between what is commonly human and what is essential to humanity. So and in this case, I would want to show what is not essential in order to be human. So there's a couple of properties that you say human beings have that make us human, and I think you're wrong on a couple of them, such as you say that we die. The fact that I'm going to die is not an essential part of me being human. I don't have to die in order to be human. Adam and Eve, they were supposed to live forever. They're the ones who screwed it up for themselves. So it is not an essential part that I die. It is common that human beings die, but it's not essential that we die in order to be human. You say that we need food and drink. That we basically have to eat. And that is true, but that is common to human beings. It is not an essential part to eat in order to be a human being. Once I die, if I go to heaven, it is not going to be a requirement, I don't think, that I eat in order to survive once I'm in heaven, but I'll still have maintained my human nature. Needing the sun, my human nature does not require that a sun float in space. It is common that I need the sun, but it's not essential to my humanity that I need the sun. Limited in power and knowledge, I would say that that's actually correct. That is part of human nature. The reason why, though, is because human nature is actually a subcategory of the divine nature. It is not, they are not opposites of each other. One is a subcategory of the other. A lot of what you're actually comparing to demonstrate that God and man is opposites is you're comparing what is common, you're not comparing what is essential. What I mean by that is it is not essential that a human nature have a body. I'm sure you believe that when you die, you're going to go to heaven and you're going to leave your body and your brain behind. So it is not essential that for you to have a human nature, you have to have a body. In the same way, it is not essential to divine persons to have a body, or angelic persons to have a body. It just happens to be common that human natures, persons with a human nature do have a body, and persons with divine nature and angelic natures do not. So you're comparing what is common, you're not comparing what is essential. Okay, so human beings, or human nature and divine nature, happen to share some properties and attributes. The human nature has it in limited form, though. We have personality, God has personality, rationality, relationality, relationships, morality, free will or freedom, creativity, and so on and so forth. So there are things that human beings have, or human nature possesses, that which the divine nature possesses. In fact, there's nothing the human nature has that the divine nature doesn't have. So human nature appears to be a subcategory of the divine nature, not at all in any way, shape, or form opposites. So here's the really, really big question, the question that the video is asking. Is it essential to human nature that the person not have a divine nature? Does human nature, is it essential that human nature excludes the possibility of a divine nature? No, not at all. In fact, since one is a subcategory of the other, it's actually completely logical and possible. Okay, to clarify here, it is not essential to human nature that that person with that human nature does not have a divine nature. It is common that a person with a human nature does not have a divine nature, but it is not essential to that human nature that that person not have a divine nature also. The doctrine of the Incarnation is that Jesus is a person or a consciousness with a divine nature and a human nature, two natures. Is it logical? Is it possible? Yes. So how can a person be both limitless and limited, be all-powerful and yet limited in power, have all this knowledge and yet limited in knowledge, not require food but yet require food at the exact same time? Well, it's very simple. You can't. Which is why Jesus did what Paul says he did in Philippians 2, which is he drained himself in order to be a servant or a bondservant on our behalf, and that he did not deem that an offense to his equality with God. Basically, Jesus dwelt primarily in his human nature while doing his ministry on earth. His divine nature was set aside, or was basically left alone. I don't know how exactly one would want to word it. He didn't abandon it. I wouldn't say that because it's still there, but it was set aside. He dwelt primarily in his human nature. Since the resurrection and his ascension, he is now dwelling primarily in his divine nature, with his human nature sitting there off to the side. Okay, the analogy I'm about to give may not be logical. I'm not entirely sure on that. I haven't thought it 100% through, but I suppose one could say that Jesus was consciously in his human nature and his divine nature was subconscious. He was subconsciously aware of his divine nature, however he was consciously in his human nature, so that's where he primarily dwelt. Now other questions would arise that would then cause us to ask what is essential to divine nature, such as God is invisible, Jesus is not invisible, Jesus therefore can't be God. No. It is not an essential property that God be invisible in order to be God. If God were to make himself visible, would he then cease to be God? No. Is it essential to the divine nature that that divine nature be in all places all at once in order to be a divine nature? No. So being omnipresent is not an essential property to divine nature. A person with a divine nature can sit in one spot and still maintain that divine nature. So Jesus not being omnipresent because he has a body does not eliminate himself from having a divine nature. It is always interesting to me that one would say that God is limitless, and I would say that actually he's limited by logic, but within logic he is limitless. And yet at the same time he can't become a man. He's limitless but can't become a man. That's actually incoherent. That is incoherent. But as I've demonstrated through the video, it's completely logical, incoherent, that God can become a man, or that a person can have a divine nature and a human nature. Therefore, God is limitless within logic. It's logical. God can do it. So that answers your question.